Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica and our continuing series on a technicality. And today what we're taking a look at is one of my most commonly asked questions, and that's how to collect and play arcade games at your house. Before we get too far involved, if you could do me a huge favor, go down below and hit like and subscribe. It takes a lot of time and energy to make each one of these episodes, so ring that notification bell when new ones come up. But right in front of you, you're taking a look at a CPS2 board, as well as my Supergun setup, and a Sega Naomi, which is a JVS standard. I'm showing it just to talk about the difference. If you want a video about how to hook that up in the future, I'm happy to do so. But in my collection, predominantly, it is JAMMA games, and that's what I get asked the most questions about. But taking a look at a close-up of the CPS2 board, it is just a standard JAMMA board. And that was a standard that they used for the longest time in arcades, and probably 70% of the boards you're going to encounter are going to be JAMMA. And you'll see here you have your JAMMA edge, and it is keyed because you need to put it in a very specific configuration. Do not get it in reverse because you're going to be sending 5-volt power to places you don't want it to go, and it's going to burn out. And additionally, some boards will have what they call a kick harness. I've done a video series on how to make those, and I'll link it below, but that's going to be important as well. Now, taking a look at the Supergun here, it's decent. I don't highly recommend it, and I use a 450 watt SFX power supply because I had a spare one sitting around. You can buy switching power supplies as well, but it's just what I use, and I've had good luck with it. But right here we have the JAMMA edge, and that's going to be where we put the JAMMA edge into the board. We have a voltmeter, and we have a negative 5-volt switch as well, because some boards need that. Simple power switch, and then we're going to have a coin, a test, and a service button as well to get into those menus. It's going to be important. We can also tap RGB out of the board to put it into a traditional arcade monitor, but we have a SCART connector on back as well, and then screw posts for controls if that's how you want to use it. But take a look over here. This particular Supergun uses DB15 connections, and then you have a DB9 connection for the kick harness. Some use Sega Saturn pads. I come from a Neo Geo background of collecting, so I like DB15 because the cords are cheap and they're easy to work with. And around this side here, we have a SCART RGB out, and then we have stereo out as well as a speaker mini jack and a headphone jack as well. So you're getting plenty of ways to get your audio out if need be, and that is important. And just taking a look at the top here, I built my Supergun into a case just to protect it. You don't have to, but I like it because if you drop something on it, I repented it for effect, it's not going to get damaged, nothing's going to happen to it. Your mileage may vary, but that's what I like to do. What I don't like to do though is hook the Supergun directly up into the board because I don't want it to flex too much because they're not at the same height. So what I use is a JAMMA extension harness, one end male, one end female. You can get them on eBay. I know a few people that make them, so if you want to comment, leave me a comment below if you want one. And it is keyed, so it's impossible to put it onto the CPS2 board in the wrong direction. And it should slide on pretty easily. You just go ahead and match the key up with the notch, push it in, and you've made a connection. Over here with this particular Supergun, you want to match up pin A and 1 on the right side so we know that that is correct because this one is not keyed, and you just pop it in. And all we've done is extend the run of the wire from the CPS2 board to the Supergun. It's the same exact thing as plugging it in right in front, but it just keeps the flex down on the edge because that is something that I think is an issue. Other collectors may say differently. You can do what you'd like, it's just how I like to do it. Now over here, I'm going to hook up this DB9 port in for the kick harness. I made this cable myself, and I'm just going to connect it right into the CPS2 board. So now we have all of our power, our controls on the JAMMA harness, our RGB out, and now we have our kicks, those button inputs on the kick harness. So now we have all of our controls wired up at least between the Supergun and the actual arcade board itself. Because the reason we need that kick harness is JAMMA uses button A, B, C, and D. And that's kind of a Neo Geo standard. That's what I usually play. But you're not going to get all 6 button inputs without using the kick harness. And I like to use DB15 again because, like I said, it's a really open standard. I bought this cable on Amazon for $7. It's extremely long, it's useful, you can get them all day long. Some Superguns use that Saturn pad, and I don't mind that, but you're not really going to be able to configure it as well as you can with DB15. You just plug those two together, and now we have all of our button inputs between the DB15 port and the kick harness and the JAMMA edge to the Supergun. So now we have all of our controls wired up perfectly fine. We're going to be able to play the game, and that's what's most important, because if you can't control it, what really is the point in doing it? And I highly recommend whatever stick you have, assign a button for coin and for start. It's going to be really annoying to have to coin up from your Supergun, or if you put it in a cabinet, your cabinet. I like the button, super simple. Now on the video front, we have a SCART male-to-male cable on the left, and that's going to be useful for a lot of different things, because if we use the BNC breakout cable, SCART to BNC there, we're going to be able to play our games on a PVM RGB monitor, and that's really important because if you want to play light gun games, a lot of them need that RGB, so we need to support that format. And that's why SCART is so useful, because it's adaptable. And on the right, we have a SCART to mini DIN connector for the FrameMeister, so if you want to get high definition captures of those games on your computer or play it on a 4K TV, we have it. One thing of note, and I will go over this a bit more in depth later, is we need to make sure that the signal coming from the supergun is properly attenuated to the right voltage so you don't blow your equipment up and the magic smoke releases. More on that in a moment. But right here, you just plug that SCART cable in, and it is keyed. You can only do it one way, and then from there you can plug it into whatever you want. You can use the mini DIN connector to convert it over to the RGB for the FrameMeister. You can use BNC to convert it over to any sort of RGB input, including a PVM, which I really like. All they do is slot together, and like I said, it is keyed, so you can't make a mistake. Hook it up to whatever you want, and it'll work fine. And you'll see here, this is the whole setup. It's a mess of cables, I left it there for effect. It takes a lot of stuff to get this running in your house. We have our video signal with audio out. We have our kick harness, if needed, into that CPS2 board. We have our JAMMA harness extending out, and then we have our arcade stick in the back so we can actually play the game. All we need to do is plug it into a TV and put power into that power supply, but we are good. Now keep in mind, not everything is JAMMA. This is a Sega Naomi board, and this uses a completely different standard. If you guys want a video about JVS and how to hook it up at home, leave a comment below and I will work on it in the future. You'll see as we turn this around, there is no place to hook a JAMMA harness up because JVS stands for JAMMA Video Service. I believe that's what it is. It's a new version. You have your power connectors here, and then right in the middle there, you're going to have a VGA out at 15 or 31 kilohertz. You're going to have this USB input right here for your I/O control boards, and there's multiple ways to adapt that, and then just different connectors, but they're not the same thing. Just keep that in mind. And sometimes you're going to run into a board. This is Beastbuster Second Nightmare. I converted it, and I'll leave links below. That is no standard. It's its own standard. I converted this over to work on JAMMA, and that can be done with some boards, but that's a one-off instance. So I can't really give you advice on how to make something like that if I've never done it before. But do keep in mind that not everything is JAMMA. And since this video is about collecting for JAMMA arcade boards and running them in your house, I just want to point out that this can be done sometimes, but you want to make sure if you're new to this, you don't buy the wrong thing. Because you can see here, you can convert it over and hook it up and be able to play it on a supergun in your home, in this instance in my living room. It is quite difficult, so you definitely need to know what you're doing. So ask me or anybody else. But that's how I run JAMMA games in my house and how I collect for them. Now back to that TTL versus standard TV voltage thing. JAMMA sends out a 5-volt TTL sync and RGB signal. If that's not properly attenuated down to the signal that a regular consumer TV, FrameMeister, or open source scan converter is expecting, the magic smoke can and will escape. So check to see what your supergun does. Mine doesn't do a very good job with it, so my SCART cable has different resistors built in to bring the signal down where I need to go. But if you're not sure about it, I'll leave a couple links to some forums you can ask below, or you can message me. I'm happy to help. Short of that, that's how I do it. If you have any questions, leave the comments below, and I'll answer each and every one of them. I love talking about it. Short of that, we'll be back with episodes on Sunday and Tuesday as well. But that's about it. If you want to see a JVS video, just let me know. Bye-bye.